live again on Thursday night. John Cosper joining the show. John, how are you?
I'm doing well, Eddie. How are you doing?
What's the weather where you are right now?
It is. There's snow on
Cold?
the ground outside, and it's cold.
Yeah, it's been snowing the last 2 days here
Yeah.
in Boston. It's like 20 degrees. It's miserable. I don't advise anyone to come here at all. Not even during the
It's
summer.
right at 32. We got a nice about 2 inches yesterday.
Yep.
It was hazardous to drive, more because everybody loses their minds and drives like idiots when there's snow. But the roads are clear today, and it's just a nice, pretty snowy day right now.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, one of the things I say about Boston is that when it rains out, people cannot, like, the city just shuts down if it rains. So one of the things that I always say is, like, thank God it didn't rain during the Revolutionary War, because we'd still be under British rule.
Yeah.
Because they just cannot function when it rains out.
It used to be around here. So I'm in southern Indiana near Louisville. It used to be, a dusting would shut the city down, and people wouldn't know what to do, and the schools would shut down and everything. And I remember it being that way. And then one winter, for long story, ending up in Minneapolis and driving out of Minneapolis in a blizzard behind a snowplow with no problem whatsoever. If you get it all the time, you know how to handle it. And if you don't get it every now and then, you act like a nut.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I'm glad you had a chance to come on tonight. I guess the question everybody wants to know is, how many millions of dollars did you make off of GameStop over the last few days?
I didn't get in on that one. I was taking a break from social media and didn't get the text, "Hey, you need to buy GameStop." So here I am, still selling wrestling books.
Went from $3 to $400 in a month.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I've been hearing
good return.
I don't watch the news. My wife's been having to work out of the house for a while and everything. And when she was working out of the house, because she's self-employed and everything, I saw the news every night and kind of halfway paid attention to it and the weather. And I realized yesterday when it started snowing, it's like, I have no idea what the weather is going to be like day to day, because I never watched the news.
Yeah. That's funny.
I check the headlines on the Montreal Canadiens and the Chicago Bears every day. That's about as consistent as I get.
Who had defunct video game company bringing the country together in 2021?
I don't know who had that one. My son. Now there's something dubious going on. That's my son's favorite store, and I know he's going to be very upset if something happens there.
I just went there yesterday. Had to get
we were there over the weekend.
I had to get the new WWE 2K20 game for my kids. So
yeah, he's got Battlegrounds, which is kind of fun.
I was gonna get that game, but it looked kind of cartoonish, and I'm like, what is the difference? But I couldn't figure out.
I like it. I loved. We had a Wii, and actually we still got it. I got when WrestleMania 27 was when they unveiled WWE All Stars, which I loved and played for hours and hours and hours. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of that, more of that cartoonish style and everything. Only thing is, we played the first match and I beat him, and he's beaten me every single time since. So.
I like the WrestleMania Acclaim game for Nintendo with Hogan and Andre on the front.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if I ever played
the game that was in the arcades. I forgot which one that was.
Okay,
it was like Bam Bam Bigelow
or something. I know the one you're talking about. Yeah. I had one way back. It was for Commodore 64. And it was not a very good game. It was mostly just, you would type something in and the computer would tell you your wrestler wins or your wrestler loses. And there was text at the bottom where there would be a quote from Vince McMahon and another quote from Jesse Ventura making commentary on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Commodore 64, way back.
Oh, man. I want to go buy one to play that game. Was it the micro wrestling or something like that?
No, it was, like I said, it was more of a text-based type thing, and you would see images. You would type in, do this, do that. I can't remember exactly how it worked, but it would pop up and say you win or you lose, and it would show Hulk Hogan body slamming Andre or Andre body slamming Hulk or Randy Savage. I can't remember what all characters were in it. This is 35 years ago, but yeah, I mean, it was pretty antiquated for the time, but
yeah.
Well, I guess for the time it was advanced, but it definitely looked very antiquated today.
So, someone tells me you got 1 million books coming out this year. What are we looking at? What do you got on the horizon here?
We got this one just finally came out. Chris Candido, No Gimmicks Needed.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Oh,
working on this one for probably about the last. There we go. Now we'll put it up there.
All
I
right.
guess we started in on it. Johnny and I really started in last June, and just kind of took our time with it. This one was a lot of fun to write. Got to talk to a lot of different people, a lot of names people will recognize in the book. Tommy Dreamer, Al Snow, Brian Myers, Joel Gartner, Jim Cornette, Ian Rotten. It's actually the second book I've had quotes from Ian Rotten and Jim Cornette in the same book. But I mean, this is a guy everybody loved, and everybody misses, and the wrestlers and the fans. He was a guy who loved pro wrestling. Yeah, it was his whole life, and it was a ton of fun to write, and everybody's just getting a big kick out of it. A lot of very funny stories, obviously a very, very tragic ending to it.
Yeah.
Could have been worse though. I mean, he had cleaned his act up, and he was kind of on the way up, and it was just, it's one of the things you just shake your head at how it could possibly happen. He had surgery. No doubt somebody somewhere told him don't get on a plane right away, but he decided to fly home because he wanted to be back home after he finished the TV tapings and passed away the next day.
Yeah, it's absolutely a sad story. So when you're doing research for a book like this, and maybe you're trying to reach out to people to get to interview them for the book. Do you is that hard? I mean, are people approachable? Are they willing to give an interview? Do they want to get compensated for it? I mean, how does that work?
With this one, I'll tell you, over the years, I won't name names. I've only had 2 people that have asked me for compensation for something, and I've said no on both occasions. And neither one of them was really super vital to the project. One of them did give me a couple of nice quotes and everything, even though we didn't do an interview. But with this one, everybody was very eager to talk about it. I mean, like I said, everybody loved this guy, and when they found out we were doing a book on Chris, and Johnny kind of broke the ice with a lot of folks and said, "Hey, I'm working on a book. Would you mind talking to my co-author?" And then I reached out to a number of other folks as well through people that I knew or reaching out to them directly, and everybody was more than willing to give us some time to talk about Chris.
Yeah, it's great, and of course you came on with Johnny, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. To be able to have him come aboard.
We had a great time working together. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he seems like he definitely knows a lot about the business. Mm-hmm. Did you when did the book come out? When did you officially get the first copy in hand?
I got my first copies in hand 2 days ago. Okay. It was released on Amazon earlier this month. The way the Kindle digital platform works is, you have to release the book in order to buy author copies. People go on Amazon and buy it. They print it on demand, and it gets to them in a couple of days. For some reason, it takes them 3 weeks to get an author of his books. I'm actually looking at a different source to try to get them a little more quickly for the next release, so that, when I start taking pre-orders for signed copies, that those will be shipping out same time as it becomes available on Amazon. But about 3 or 4 weeks, it's been way up there at different times on the sales charts as far as wrestling books. It's selling, I think, faster. It's selling faster than Tracy's book. I think it's selling faster than Dr. D's book did out of the gate as well. Wow. And we're just now starting to get Mike Johnson's from PWI is reading it for a review. Bill Apter's looking at it for a review. Slam Wrestling is going to be doing one as well. And I think as word gets out and people start spreading the word about this one, like I said, this is just, there's the old adage about, if you walked into a bar and you saw Jeff Bridges on one end and Bo Bridges on the other, which one you want to go talk to, and most people want to go say hi to Jeff Bridges and get their photo with him. But the guy who's going to go over sit next to Bo, and no disrespect to Bo, I mean, he's a phenomenal talent, obviously, but, he's the guy who doesn't get as many people, coming over to say hello necessarily, but he's the guy who's going to spend more time and tell you more stories. And, a guy like Chris Candido is, we got stories from ECW guys, we got stories from former WWF guys, and a lot of independent guys too, talking about just what a cool guy he was and how he made everybody feel welcome and just made everybody feel a part of it. And always wanted everybody just to have a sense of fun about, we're pro wrestlers. We're getting to live our dream. We all started out as fans and now we're in here. Let's have a good time with it.
Do you have an idea of how many you're looking that you think you're going to do? How many you think you're going to sell?
Right now, I don't know. I mean,
you need to get on Reddit and start pumping it. just like those guys.
My
from
wife keeps
GameStop.
telling me I need to do Reddit. I've got it downloaded on my phone. I've never really engaged in it. I need to do an AMA or something like that. I've never really done one, but
well, you should, because there's a big wrestling subforum on there.
There's a couple of them. Chris Hero's got a nice one too that I've checked out.
So, all right, let's get to some questions here.
Sure.
Let's see. Someone says they can't wait to pick up Chris Candido's book. I think that was Wills who said that. You got to get on StreamYard and tell people to you got to let them accept the terms and conditions so we can see your name. Let's see. How big of a help was Chris's brother to the book? It seemed like he was really involved.
We were talking every day, usually by text. Very, very involved. This was a project I really undertook specifically with the family to tell specifically Chris's story. And I mean, there's no better keeper of Chris's legacy than Johnny. I mean, they were best friends as well as brothers. I mean, he grew up. Chris was about 10 years older than him, and just grew up idolizing Chris. And I mean, very, very involved and very engaged in it. And we went through a couple of different revisions and additional stories. I mean, right up until the day I hit publish, we were throwing extra stories in, and I told him, I was like, there's going to be something next week we're going to wish we had thrown in, because it happens every time. Last time with Tracy Smothers, like literally 2-3 days after we published it, a wonderful picture of Tracy and Chris Candido popped up online. I was like, I wish I'd had that one, but and there've been a couple stories that have come around about Chris from Johnny afterwards, but no, he was very, very involved in the process.
Let's see. Jamie Hemming stole my question. Did you reach out to Sonny?
Sonny's not available at the moment. For reasons I think most people know. No, we did not reach out to Sonny. We would not have reached out to Sonny if she was available. That was kind of one of the conditions of working with the Candido family. She's had her chance to tell her story and everything, and she's obviously a big part of Chris's story. But we really wanted to keep the focus on Chris, and it was really, I mean, it's a delicate situation between the Candidos and her.
No, I could see that. I mean, obviously they were, intertwined for so long of the career. So
there was early on, even before I got in touch with Johnny, someone had reached out to her, kind of send a feeler to her and everything, and she was a little, it wasn't real receptive to it. So there was an overture early on before I started talking to Johnny and everything. But once I got involved with the Candidos, it was pretty much going to be the family and friends telling, and And like I said, she was unavailable pretty much from the beginning.
Was there anyone that that you had a chance to talk to that you were surprised had a Chris Candido story that you were like, oh, I'm surprised they were connected?
There was, like I said, Brian Myers had reached out to Johnny on Twitter and wanted to say a few things. He grew up in the Jersey area. His first ever training session was at an independent promotion that had hired Chris to be a trainer, which only lasted one day, which we talk about that story a little bit in the book. But I mean, everybody who found out about it and who had any kind of connection to him wanted to call in and chip in a story.
No, that's great to hear. Let's see. Chris is way under. I wonder if he made any royalties off the ECW action figures. I believe that was his only one. Oh, interesting.
I don't know if he did. I didn't ask that question. I don't know that Johnny would know that necessarily. I know he came out in the red as far as ECW because he was putting a lot of expenses on his credit card that Paul promised to reimburse him for and never did, and ended up losing the mansion that his WWE money had purchased for him and Sonny. But I don't know. If he made any, he didn't make a lot.
Did you get a chance to talk to Paul about for the book at all? No.
Didn't get a chance to talk to Paul. So something about that action figure too. I don't remember when it was. It was probably 20 years ago. But you go in a toy store and there would be an end cap, and there would be 20 or 30 ECW figures, and it was all Chris Candido. On the clearance racks. I remember them being at the KB outlets at the outlet malls and stuff like that, and there'd be 20 or 30 of them. And now you go on eBay. I don't have one. I don't really collect action figures. There's a couple that I have for this reason and that, but you can't get one for less than $40 right now. It's
right.
Which tells you just how much how his legacy has endured.
Yeah, I think people who collect action figures are pretty cool.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah.
Let's see. I noticed you have a ton of books, John. Do you have any more signed copies of the Tracy Smothers book?
I do. EatSleepWrestle.com is my website. With Tracy's book, last time Tracy and I actually got to see each other in person was shortly before the whole world shut down due to COVID. He had just finished up with chemo. He had 6 bouts of chemo. This was early last year, probably around, I want to say February of last year. But just because of that health concern and everything, rather than getting together to have him sign books, I got these little address labels, and I had him just sign one after another, kind of like what Kenny did with Vader's book. And I've still got quite a few of those to go through. But I've got at the moment 2 copies of Tracy's book on the shelf, and I've got another couple orders on the way. So I will have those available for a while. EatSleepWrestle.com is the place to find them.
Okay, cool. Now I'm assuming you do. Are you shipping to other countries as well?
No. I've tried that for a little bit, but it's kind of hard to do. The freight. If anybody international is interested, best thing to do is probably to message me and let me know exactly what it is you want to order, and then I can get an exact postage rate. And if you want to do it, it's very expensive. I don't have an easy way, unfortunately, with my website right now to do estimated international shipping. But if you're interested in an international order, just message me privately, and I'll see what I can work out for you.
Now, because isn't there a way to do it with what is it, print on demand? Is that what people do?
Yeah, well, you can order through Amazon.
Okay,
it's available. Amazon Europe is available. I know guys have bought. Somebody bought it in Australia, and just anywhere there's an Amazon, available, you can purchase it through Amazon. But cool. as far as getting a signed copy, no.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what other? I know you said that you had a couple other things coming out this year that you were thinking about working on.
Right now, working with Princess Victoria,
Yep.
which we had a discussion with her not too long ago. This book's going to be really eye-opening for a lot of people. The story of her childhood is really going to surprise a lot of people. It's not something she's ever really talked about, but I mean, she is a survivor, who's been through a lot in her life. Even before she ever got in the ring, and she had her issues with Moolah and everything, and the end of her wrestling career, and her wrestling stories are great. I mean, this, if there's one guy who would have been a lot of fun to write his book, that would have been Roddy Piper. Obviously, he wrote one, and his kids wrote one, but Victoria knew him really well, and she's got a lot of great Piper stories and fun stories about other different people. Some of the ribs people pulled on each other. Stories about traveling with Velvet McIntyre, stories about traveling with Wendy Richter. So it's going to be a lot of great stuff for the wrestling fans, but I mean, also a really kind of a gut-wrenching story about her childhood that I hope will actually really help out some people who've kind of been through some of the stuff that she has.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to read that one because I'll tell you, we had on Joe Lowry does a wrestling podcast last week, but we were talking about the 80s. 80s wrestling and how people don't realize that the fabulous Moolah Wendy Richter was one of the greatest wrestling rivalries ever. Mm-hmm. And I'm completely fascinated by anything having to do with women's wrestling from the 80s, especially stories about the fabulous Moolah.
We need to talk about that a little bit. Moolah's an interesting. I mean, she's due for somebody to come along and do like what Pat LaPrade and Bertrand Hebert did on Andre the Giant. Someone to do a really definitive biography on her. I mean, she put out her autobiography through WWF, but it's very kayfabe. I'll tell you, the match that she claims where she defeated June Byers for the Women's World Championship never happened. I searched all through the Courier Journal record because she claims it happened in Louisville, Kentucky, I believe in 1956. Didn't happen. I mean, her story is very kayfabe. Obviously, she's a very polarizing character, depending on who you talk to. A lot of folks say she was the real deal. She was a sweet lady. She was just, won't say a bad thing about her. And then, obviously, Vicky had some very, difficult, run-ins with her and everything. And a lot of other people have accused her of a lot of unseedy and unsavory type things. But she's certainly somebody that I think is due for a really, really deep, in-depth examination. She's not one that I'm working on this year, but
is that something that you think that you would like to undertake? I mean, that seems like a pretty fun project.
It would be, I think, not one I'm looking to undertake right now. It's one that's kind of, if that opportunity were to be there down the road. I mean, who wouldn't take that opportunity? But I mean, again, that's going to be, it's going to be a challenging one to do. You're going to need to talk to both sides and kind of try to find the balance and tell the complete picture of somebody who, I mean, she pretty much kayfabes all the way up until the end. Even in her autobiography.
I didn't realize that she put one out with the WWE. When was, do you know when that was?
I've got it on the shelf right over here. Hang on a second.
I think this year's could be even greater. Unfortunately, we're probably going to have one. I'm looking forward to going to wrestling conventions again if that ever happens.
Right there.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. Let me see.
Man, by that cover, that had to be in the 90s.
Should say somewhere on here, 2002.
2002. Okay.
Yep.
And it was written in. She kayfabed the whole book.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, talking about wrestling as a legit sport, and she defeated June Byers in a legit competition, and like I said, she may have wrestled June at some point, for the title. It was not in Louisville, Kentucky.
Now, would you ever take on a project where the person that you were working with wanted to write from that style, where they weren't being truthful?
Well, I wrote Kenny Boland's autobiography, so it would depend on the circumstances. It would depend on what it was. I always thought it would be fun. Boogeyman's one I thought would be fun to do because I would want to write it from specifically the Boogeyman's point of view, to where when you're telling the story of the real man who became the Boogeyman, you're talking in the third person. But once you get to the Boogeyman, you switch over to the first person. I think that something like that would be fun. I'd say it would depend on the circumstances and the situation. And with Boland, I mean, yeah, that's the fun of Kenny Boland. Sometimes is trying to guess what's true, what's blatantly false, and what's got shades of truth but just a little bit of embellishment in it. I always tell people that Boland's book is about 70% truth and 30% fiction, and good luck figuring out which parts are which.
That's funny.
There was one particular story that somebody told me for Bluegrass Brawlers, which is my first book about wrestling in Louisville, Kentucky. And this guy told me that, I was working as a manager at OVW, and I was sitting in Steak and Shake one day, and Kenny and Rico come walking in, and Kenny sits down across from me and says, "There's a bunch of wrestling fans in here, so kayfabe this." And he starts going, "I hear you're telling people you're the greatest wrestling manager in Louisville, Kentucky." He's like, "Oh, I never said that, Mr. Boland." And has this whole story about this argument that happened while Rico is basically sitting there eating this guy's fries and taking his food. I ran the story by Kenny and everything, and Kenny's response was, "Well, I don't remember it, but it's a great story. I think you should print it." So,
that's okay. Hey, good stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, great. I love
never
good
let the truth get in the way of a good story. I mean, the opening page of Boland's book has the classic dialogue you used to hear between him and Cornette was, like, "Kenny, I've heard this story before." I was like, "Hold on a minute, the ending might have changed."
This is actually a great question. Is there a good Gorilla Monsoon autobiography out there, or biography?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm surprised, because I feel like he would be someone great to write about, because I know that he loved to gamble. I mean, I'm sure he must have had tons of great gambling stories.
Monsoon's a fascinating. I would certainly read that book.
Yeah, that's maybe we could team up on that one. Someone's your fan. John Cosper rules.
Thank you.
Let's see. Do you prefer to write fiction or nonfiction?
Yes. I mean, I like writing great stories, and I really, I switched over to nonfiction. I'd written a lot of skits and a lot of plays and a lot of short films and things like that, and screenplays and everything before I ever got into wrestling. And I'm still writing the fiction stuff. I still really enjoy that side. Cheap plug. If you go to johncosper.com, There's one of my titles. The Big Bad Goodnight is a collection of short stories. It's fairy tales told in the noir style. Tell you what, I'll post a link underneath this after we're done if anyone wants to go take a look at it. I shot a trailer for one of the stories. Basically, imagine the story of the Three Bears, but Cape Fear, where Goldilocks is the guy coming back for revenge.
That's interesting. Now, how do you come up with that?
I don't remember where I came up with that. So, I've always loved messing with fairy tales and kind of twisting things around and crossing them over. I'd written The Big Bad Goodnight's actually a story about kind of a down on his luck big bad wolf, and it kind of takes you through the whole fairy tale world. And just kind of a noir story that I kind of did. And at some point I decided to go and try to take a couple other fairy tales and expand it out into a book. And that one came to mind. I love Cape Fear. Robert Mitchum is one of the greatest villains in cinema history in that movie, and somehow the idea of Goldilocks being that type of a stalker, with Papa Bear came to mind, and just seemed like a fun avenue to go down. And there's another, Rumpelstiltskin is kind of the slimy, Peter Lorre type character from the Maltese Falcon, and it's just a, I don't know, crossing the genres was just something that I really enjoyed doing. It's actually, most of the stuff that I've written in the past has been sci-fi. I've got a collection of short stories. I've got a couple of space novels I've written and stuff. And so the noir fairy tale was kind of a out of nowhere idea, but it's having fun. It's writing what I enjoy, and stories that I really, really enjoy, and hopefully some readers out there will enjoy them as well.
As a dad of two kids who ask me to tell them a story every single night, it's not easy to make up a story.
No. And a lot of that, I actually put out a collection of kids' stories called Tales from the Dad Side that's on Amazon.
I'm gonna have to buy it so I can read it.
Yeah, it's some of my short stories that I came up with. These are the ones that my kids said were good ones. A lot of nights, my daughter was out there and be like, "Yeah, that wasn't a very good one, Daddy." And after a while, I started to realize sometimes she didn't like the story, and sometimes she just wanted to stall and have another story. The most popular one, the one that they loved the most, was Frank Jordan, Evil Snowman, which I turned into an illustrated kids book. That one's on my website as well, johncosper.com. But it's a little boy builds an evil snowman. The evil snowman starts trying to get him. I've got an old friend up in New York, and she's got a little boy who's probably about 3 or 4 now, and it's his absolute favorite story in the entire world. Right around Christmas time, she sent me a video of him, with those little figures that he had made up of Frank Jordan and the little boy. It was really cute. It's a bear trying to come up with stories, every night, and like I said, Frank Jordan, Evil Snowman kind of came out of nowhere, which, if you want the origin of that, because he introduces himself as Frank Jordan, Evil Snowman, it's Dan Aykroyd doing Fred Garvin, male prostitute from SNL back in the 70s. But, every night after that, for a while, it was, Frank Jordan meets Elsa from Frozen, Frank Jordan versus Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat, and Frank Jordan versus Olaf, and all that garbage. So I think at some point Elsa married Sub-Zero in one of those stories. I don't know, but we had fun. It was fun. Now they're all big and stuff, and they won't go to bed when I tell them to. But
sometimes I try to think about movies that I've watched, and then I just tell the plot of the movie for the story.
Yeah.
So but I'll tell you what, the other night I came up with one of the greatest stories ever. I don't know how I came up with it, but the quick 1-minute version is that these 3 kids took their rowboat to an island because they found like a treasure map, kind of like in the Goonies, and they get to this island and they find the treasure, and there are these 2 bad guys are on there too, so they're trying to escape. The guys start chasing them. So they find some breadcrumbs and they sprinkle them into one cave, and then they go into the other cave to hide. And when the guys run into this one cave where the crumbs are, they make a break for it, and they're in their rowboat and they get away. And they finally get home, and they're so excited because they have all this new treasure that they found. And when they open up the garage, the 2 guys are in there waiting for them.
They don't like when you throw a twist like that, or I don't like that story, Daddy. I gotta have a happy ending.
All right, so tell me, I've always actually been curious, but what makes a good subject for a an autobiography, a wrestling biography? Like, how do you determine? I'm sure you have people come up to you and say, "Hey, I want to write a book," and do you say to them, "It's just not something that I think people would buy," or
I
how
haven't
does
really
that
had
work?
too many of those. I've had some where I've had to say, I'm too busy at the moment, and it's just not the right time, and I've tried to help them find some other folks that could help them out. I like great stories. I like great storytellers, and if somebody's got a great story to tell, I like to be a part of that. I mean, and there's kind of two camps when it comes to wrestling books. So the folks that like the stats, they like the results and everything, and there are folks that like the stories. And I definitely am much more of, I like the stories, and I'm a storyteller myself. But I mean, I look at, I mean, the reason I did Kenny Boland's book is because he's a great storyteller.
Mhm.
The reason I went after Madman Pondo and said we got to do a book is because he's a fantastic storyteller. Tracy Smothers is a great storyteller. The Black Panther Jim Mitchell to me was a fascinating story. I wanted to know about this early African American pioneer in the sport. I think it's a combination of that, and also who the character and the persona was, because Elvira Snodgrass, it was one that I remember being in the library over at the public library in Louisville and going through the microfilms one Sunday afternoon with Jim Cornette, and he came across the name Cousin Elvira and just started laughing. Just love the idea of it, and going back and looking at it, she was one of the very first women that really kind of put on a gimmick like that. It's just, sometimes it's somebody catches your eye, and it's just a story that, me personally, I wanted to know more about. I went back and did Louisville's Greatest Show because I wanted to know more about Haywood Allen and Francis McDonough and the Allen Athletic Club. And I did the Black Panther because I wanted to know more about him, and Elvira because I wanted to know more about her. At some point, I'd love to do a book about Wee Willie Davis. I've been collecting stuff about him for a number of years. He was a wrestler. He was a promoter. He was in the movies. He won $32,000 on the $64,000 question. He was an inventor. Just kind of a fascinating, somebody that fascinates me that I'm interested in knowing more about. Mars Bennett is somebody who caught my eye as well. She had been a circus performer before becoming a pro wrestler. And I've actually gotten in touch with a couple of her nieces. It's all a matter of timing and trying to find the time to squeeze it in. But, that's a story I'd love to tell as well. I think for me, it's a combination of, if it's somebody who's, a great storyteller or has a fascinating story to tell, or just a fascinating character or some combination of that. So we're talking about future projects, and after Princess Victoria, I'm working with Karen McDaniel on a book about Wahoo McDaniel. And Karen's whole idea for this book is we're collecting everybody's best, basically give us your best Wahoo McDaniel story. So it's not really going to be a traditional autobiography going from start to finish, but it's going to really be more like an oral history of who Wahoo McDaniel was. And I mean, just a little bits and pieces I've, been able to collect already. That's going to be a fun read. It's going to be a lot of fun to do.
Now, do you need that fall from grace and the comeback to be a good story?
No, absolutely not.
Like, can someone
No.
live a great life where they're nice to everybody, everyone likes them, they go to church, they have a family, they've never done anything bad in their life? Like, is that a good story? I feel like that's not a great story.
I
I feel
don't.
like people like to hear the vices and the road stuff and the stuff that they wouldn't themselves do, but they
I
want to
mean,
live
I think
vicariously with somebody else.
with pro wrestling, I mean, you're not going to have a straightforward, I went through life and everybody was great and everything was because, you're dealing with the promoters who are trying to shaft you. If you're working as a heel, you're dealing with the fans who are trying to stab you. This is the 60s and 70s and 80s or whatever. It's, I mean, Candido's story certainly has the tragic fall, and the comeback and then the tragic ending and everything. But I mean, Madman Pondo's story, I mean, did he make a ton of money in the business? No. Did he have a real big fall from grace? No. Did he ever, get lost in drugs? No, he never did. But I mean, he just, he had adventures and he got to meet exciting people, and, fun thing about Pondo is, every time you're about ready to sit there and call it, no, that didn't happen. He pulls his phone out. He's like, here's the photo. Here's a photo of me doing that thing, or he tells you the story about him pulling, a tooth out with some pair of pliers that he drove 40 miles to Walmart to get. It's like, here's the video on YouTube, and then he tells you about being backstage at a Smashing Pumpkins concert with Marilyn Manson and putting Vicks Vapor Rub in his tear ducts, and he sends you to the YouTube channel to watch that video. But yeah, I mean, Pondo is certainly an example. That there was never a fall. There was never a great rise with Pondo either. But I mean, he's a guy who lived his dream and got to be a pro wrestler, got to meet all kinds of cool people, and just had some amazing, fascinating encounters. Everybody from meet Mr. Wonderful and wrestling Junkyard Dog when he was a kid to trying to get on stage and have the absolute greatest trust fall that Benny Hinn has ever seen and not being allowed on stage by his bodyguards.
No, well, what's interesting about it is that I've been reading wrestling biographies forever, and people would always ask me, "Oh, why do you like to read those?" Like, my wife's friends would like make fun of me or whatever. Like, why do you have those? But what all people don't understand is that they live their entire life as this character. At least they used to, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, it's fascinating. But I've always wondered: is there another, profession where we would be interested in their private life because we never really got to see it?
There's, certainly, you with any celebrity, I mean, you've got a public persona and a private persona, I think. And, I think people would love to know, what was, for example, what was Prince like when he was at home? Was he wearing silk purple robes and lying around and looking swell, sultry? Right. Was he rolling on the ground playing with his kids in some flannel PJs or something like that? I mean, certainly we'd love to see, we like to see the human side of them and what they were really like. And, we've definitely got a pop culture, obsessed society right now. So everybody likes to kind of pull back the curtain and, it's like, it's just like, the Kardashians, oh, look at my wonderful life. And this is like, what do you really like when the camera's not around? All right. Let's see you with your hair up and no makeup, eating a pint of Ben and Jerry's and watching some trash on TV.
Well, what I always found interesting was, how they do all the paparazzi and everything. They follow all the actors around. There are no paparazzi pictures of wrestlers from the 80s. Or 90s. No. Which I've always found weird. Like, that would be something that I would think that you'd want to do because no one really ever got to see them in living their, like, going shopping at the grocery store.
That's true. Like,
I need to see a picture of Hulk Hogan buying milk at the grocery store. If anyone has that, send me it, please.
Yeah, I think they follow him around a little bit more today, but you don't really have that. I mean, you had the wrestling media that followed him around, but I mean, I think maybe it was just it was just always that wrestling subculture, and only those idiots and the word around in the summer in the black T-shirts care about the wrestlers and want to see them at the grocery store. But
yeah, so
there's that great meme of Stone Cold walking out of the grocery store with like 8 bags in his arms and flip flops. So yeah,
I need to find that
from after he retired.
No, but I want to see Andre the Giant getting gas.
Yeah.
Like I need to see that picture and what car he was driving.
Who had some of the best Andre stories in his book was Cary Elwes. He wrote a book about the making of The Princess Bride, and he had some wonderful Andre stories in there. He went out drinking with Andre the night after the premiere in New York, and it was just a really, really great story.
I'll have to check that out. So, what other projects do you have on the horizon?
So, Princess Victoria is up right now. Wahoo McDaniel is coming right after that. Madman Pondo and I are getting together to do a second round of stories. He continues to have his adventures. We got a lot of stuff we didn't hit on his. And Johnny Candido and I had so much fun working together on Chris. We spent a lot of time talking about another guy that Chris kind of grew up with and was one of his childhood friends, that being Balls Mahoney. And so probably around the end of this year, we're gonna start getting back together and probably kind of like what I'm doing with Karen and Wahoo is we're just collect everybody's Balls Mahoney stories because, I mean, every single one of those stories you hear is just a riot. And again, a guy who's certainly got a following, and a lot of people loved him and everything, and just a whirling dervish of humanity running through life, and real excited to dig into that one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, before I let you get out of here, how did you get into writing wrestling biographies? How did that happen?
I was I was kind of at a point I was trying to figure out what to do next. I had my writing started really 93, 94 when I was a freshman in college. I started writing skits for the youth group at church, and that grew into me building a drama ministry and actually selling and writing skits and plays for Christian ministries around the country and around the world. Had a traveling group for a while, made a lot of short films. And then met my wife, got married, and shortly after that ran into one of the kids that I had worked with in the youth group. Got a part-time job teaching theater at a local high school. And at that point decided, you know what, I need to go back to school. I need to get my degree. There was a transition to teaching program, and I was going to become a secondary ed teacher. I wanted to teach English, wanted to teach theater. I did that for about 4 years. Well, it was a 2-year program to get my teaching license, and I did the theater job for about 4 years. For whatever reason, the administration at the school, I was not their guy. And clearly they were just waiting for me to move on. And if I had been a math or a science teacher, I probably could have gotten a teaching job, and I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. But it just wasn't panning out. I left that job behind. Got another nice writing gig and everything like that, kind of on the side, kind of connected to the drama stuff that I've been doing, but was looking for a new challenge. I tried writing film, I tried writing fiction and everything like that. Nothing was really kind of taking off or picking up for me. And I remember starting to think that nobody had written a book about wrestling in Louisville. I've been a wrestling fan my whole life, and probably around, I want to say it was summer 2003, a friend of mine moved in with me who brought his entire wrestling library. We're talking videotapes, DVDs, and his books. That was when I read, Mick Foley's Have a Nice Day. That's when I read Foley is Good. I read Bobby Heenan's book. I read Jerry Lawler's book. I read a couple others that summer. And after I was kind of hooked on the stories of wrestling as well. And I had started kind of looking around and to see what was out there. I knew about Mark James and the stuff he had written about Memphis. I'd done some Googling and seen some things that Tim Hornbaker and Steve Yohe had dug up about Louisville. I knew there was a story about OVW and Memphis. Certainly that would have been a book in itself. But then when I found Steve Yohe's story about how Strangler Lewis got his name in Louisville, Kentucky in 1913, then I was like, well, there might be a lot more to this. So one afternoon, I'm having lunch with my wife at Penn Station, and I just pop it out. I was like, I think I'm thinking about writing a book about wrestling in Louisville. And to my surprise, she said, go for it. I don't know if she would have said go for it if she knew one day I'd be writing a book about a guy named Balls. But, it just kind of grew from there. I went to OVW not too much longer after that, talked to a friend of mine who had been over there forever working concessions. She got me in to talk to Danny Davis and Rip Rogers. I ran into Jim Cornette at a Comic-Con, introduced myself, told him what I was doing. I started doing a lot of research, spending, any day I got off from work, I would go over to the library. I spent a lot of evenings and Saturdays over there going through the old microfilms. And, took me about a year and a half to put out Bluegrass Brawlers, which was the first book that about pro wrestling that I had written. And as soon as I had that out, I was going to independent shows and fell in love with the independent scene. Wrote my second book, Eat, Sleep, Wrestle, which is where the website names came from. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
Ah, that's amazing. Cool. Well, John, thanks as always for coming on.
Anytime, man. So
stay out of the cold.
Absolutely. So I enjoyed the show a couple weeks ago with Billy and Jean, by the way.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah. Say Billy Starks. If anybody hasn't seen her, that kid is going to be something. She's going to be a star.
Yeah, no, I agree, and and I hope fans can come out soon.
Me too. There's a big.
I want to go to a convention. Now that I've been talking to all these people, I'm assuming that they're going to be at the conventions. Trying to meet.
Yeah, Cauliflower Alley has been postponed until September again. I'm hoping. I'm signed up for it. I'm going to go to the Hall of Fame in Waterloo this summer, in Waterloo, Iowa, which I went a couple of years ago. It was an absolute blast. But yeah, I'm hoping by that point we're back up and running and things are happening again. Because, like I want to get out and see some wrestling.
Now, will you go if there are conventions again? Will you go there with like Johnny or Princess Victoria?
If I can, certainly. Yeah,
signings or anything like that.
It depends on where it is and everything. I'm hoping at some point to obviously I'm going to go back to Cauliflower Alley one of these days and maybe not next fall, but maybe spring of 2022 if they come around, go out there and do a signing with Victoria, or Johnny or Karen or whoever else happens to make it out. But yeah, I definitely want to get out there and do some more signings. And JJ McGuire is chomping at the bit to get out and do some more appearances. And anytime I get a chance to go anywhere with Pondo, I'm always happy to do that.
Right. Cool. All right, John. Well, thanks, buddy. Well, I'm sure we'll be seeing you.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks a lot.